Good afternoon, everyone. I am so happy to see you all here. My name is Ilana Gelfman, and it is my honor to serve as the chair of the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services. On behalf of the entire committee, you cannot hear me in the mic. Is this better? Now, on behalf of the entire committee, I am delighted to welcome you to the 2025 Adams Pro Bono Publico Awards ceremony. I'd like to extend a special welcome to this year's awards recipients, recent law graduates Omar Hajjadra and Deepti Sailapan, and attorneys Madeline Rodriguez and Nigel Tampton, and the law firm Proskauer Rose. I would also like to thank Chief Justice Kimberly Budd and Justice Bessie Dewar, and thank them for making time to participate in today's program despite their very, very busy schedules. We really appreciate your dedication to promoting pro bono legal services in the Commonwealth. Pro bono work has never been more crucial. A survey of 22 case types, not even all cases, in the Massachusetts state courts in fiscal year 2024 showed over 150,000 cases involving litigants without lawyers. The interests at stake in these cases cannot be overstated. Pro se litigants are often parents seeking to maintain custody of their children, tenants facing potential eviction from their homes, and individuals who might be subject to devastating financial judgments. And the 150,000 case figure doesn't actually approach the scale of the problem. It doesn't account for some case types within the state courts. It doesn't account for all of the individuals going unrepresented in administrative agency proceedings, which can be critical, involving rights like benefits, housing, immigration, and discrimination. And it doesn't account for cases involving unrepresented litigants in the federal courts. So the need is just colossal. And lawyers who volunteer to provide representation without compensation play a critical role in narrowing the justice gap between the enormous number of people who cannot afford counsel and the limited number of nonprofit attorneys available to assist them. We are so lucky to have many lawyers in Massachusetts who generously volunteer their time to do this work. We're here today to recognize and thank this year's members of the Supreme Judicial Court Pro Bono Honor Roll. These attorneys, legal organizations, and law students have donated many, many hours of pro bono legal services over the past year. They have assisted, advised, and represented low-income individuals and families across the Commonwealth, and they have meaningfully increased access to justice in our state. We're also here to celebrate this year's Adams Awards recipients. The Adams Awards ceremony is one of my favorite events of the year because it is a huge treat to hear from our awardees about the extraordinary pro bono work that they have done. This year's recipients are truly inspiring, and I hope that you here in the courtroom and those joining us online will come out of this ceremony inspired to make a difference too. In fact, it might not surprise you to learn that an important item on the agenda, albeit not the printed agenda that many of you received on entering the courtroom, is to motivate you to engage in pro bono work over the coming year. The goal of the Pro Bono Committee, after all, is to promote pro bono legal services throughout the Commonwealth. In pursuit of that goal, the committee engages in the following activities. We recognize and celebrate outstanding pro bono services, which is why we're here today. We encourage law students and new lawyers to develop a habit of engaging in pro bono services. We learn as much as we can about pro bono legal services in Massachusetts so that we can increase those services over time. And we engage with members of the bar so that we can learn how to better support their pro bono efforts. There are typically about 15 members of the Pro Bono Committee. A justice of the Supreme Judicial Court serves as a liaison between the committee and the court. And we are incredibly lucky that Justice Bessie Dewar joined us just over a year ago to serve in that role. She has contributed so much to the committee through her insights and thoughtfulness and enthusiasm. The director of the Access to Justice Commission sits ex officio on the committee, and the commission's current director is the incomparable Deb Silva, sitting over there, who has been a phenomenal addition and contributor to our committee. Also supporting the committee is Chip Finney, the SJC's chief counsel for judicial policy. Chip provides staff support for the committee and for many other committees on the court. He's one of the principal organizers of today's events and all of our events. Chip meets with me every single week, and he is wise, dedicated, positive, and endlessly supportive. He is my unofficial co-chair and my partner in justice. Thank you so much, Chip. The remaining members of the committee are appointed by the justices of the Supreme Judicial Court and typically serve 2 3-year terms. It is a significant time commitment, and I'd like to recognize and thank our committee members now. They are Valley Buland, Dick Bauer, John Carroll, Nikisha Davidson, Felicia Ellsworth, Victoria Gottney, Rochelle Jones, Sandy Moskowitz, Roz Nasdor, Seth Orkand, Meredith Palmer, Courtney Pitta, Brian Reichart, Anant Saraswat, and Carlos Teuscher. It is a pleasure to work with these outstanding lawyers. Thank you to each and every committee member, many of whom are here today, for your efforts to promote pro bono legal services in the Commonwealth. Others in the audience might be interested to know that the committee seeks new members every year, and this year we have 2 openings to fill. So if there are any Massachusetts attorneys in the audience, I urge you to consider applying for membership on the committee. You can find out more about how to do so on the court's website or by contacting Chip or me after the event. On to the main event. I would now like to introduce someone who's spent hours and hours working to promote pro bono legal work in Massachusetts, the Honorable Kimberly S. Budd, Chief Justice of the Supreme Judicial Court. Chief Justice Budd was appointed to the Superior Court by Governor Deval Patrick in 2009 and to the Supreme Judicial Court by Governor Charlie Baker in 2016. She was sworn in as the 38th Chief Justice of the Supreme Judicial Court in 2020. Many people know those entries on her extremely impressive resume, or know that prior to her time on the court, Chief Justice Budd was an assistant U.S. attorney, a university attorney at Harvard University's General Counsel's Office, and director of the Community Values Program at Harvard Business School. But not everyone knows that during her time as an associate justice, Chief Justice Budd was the court's liaison to the Pro Bono Committee. So we will always consider her to be an honorary member of our committee, and we are pleased to welcome her back to this year's Adams Awards ceremony. Thank you, Chief Justice Budd.
Thank you so much, Ilana. On behalf of the Justices of the Supreme Judicial Court, I bring greetings and welcome all of you to the celebration of pro bono legal services in the Commonwealth. Thank you all for joining us today. I want to congratulate all of today's award recipients and pro bono honor roll participants. We very much appreciate your pro bono service. Having been, as you heard, the SJC's representative on the Pro Bono Committee for several years, I've seen how pro bono legal services can make a real difference in the lives of others. When you volunteer to help people who can't afford a lawyer, you play a fundamental role in improving our society. You help make the rights promised by the law a reality for some of our most vulnerable populations. And your example, in turn, inspires others to join that good work. So thank you so much for all that you're doing. I also want to thank the Pro Bono Committee members and all of the court staff who have worked so hard behind the scenes to make this event possible. And a special thank you to my colleague, Justice Dewar, for serving as the SJC's representative on the committee and for presenting this year's awards. Once again, congratulations to our pro bono honorees, and thank you so much for your service.
Thank you so much, Chief Justice Budd. It is now my pleasure to introduce Roz Nasdor. Roz is not only a member of the Pro Bono Committee, but has dedicated her career to promoting pro bono work as the Director and Pro Bono Counsel at Ropes & Gray. So it's particularly appropriate for Roz to speak to us about the attorneys, law students, and legal organizations who qualified for this year's Pro Bono Honor Roll. Thanks, Roz.
Thank you, Ilana. I'm pleased to have this opportunity to recognize the wonderful work of all the attorneys, law students, law firms, and other legal organizations who qualified for the SJC Pro Bono Honor Roll this year. The Pro Bono Honor Roll was established first in 2010 at the urging of then Associate Justice Ralph Gantz, soon after he joined the SJC. Initially, the Pro Bono Honor Roll recognized law firms, including solo practitioners, and other legal organizations that met certain criteria for average pro bono hours and firm policies supporting pro bono legal service. Since then, the pro bono honor roll has expanded to include both law students and individual attorneys as well. Law students qualify for the pro bono roll if they complete at least 50 hours of pro bono service during their time of law school career. For attorneys, there are two categories for recognition. Attorneys who completed at least 50 hours during the prior calendar year qualify for the honor roll, and attorneys who complete at least 100 hours during that same period qualify for the high honor roll. This year, we had a total of 1,059 individual attorneys participating in the SJC Pro Bono Honor Roll. That is the highest number yet, which was true last year as well, and a sign that we are really rolling up our sleeves here in Massachusetts to contribute pro bono service. Specifically, 508 attorneys completed at least 100 hours, hitting the high honor roll, and 551 attorneys hit that 50-hour mark to qualify for the honor roll. The collective impact of their work is enormous. Altogether, they completed approximately 80,000 hours of pro bono service just in calendar year 2024. Participation among law students was also very strong. 298 law students qualified for the honor roll by providing at least 50 hours last year of pro bono related, law-related pro bono service. And altogether, these students have donated over 14,000 hours of pro bono service while also going to school as their day job. Unfortunately, there is one downside to such strong participation by lawyers and law students, and that is that the volume of participants is so high that we can't recognize everybody individually today. But we have added your names as new honorees to a webpage for the Pro Bono Honor Roll, and the court's Public Information Office has mailed certificates to pro bono coordinators and administrators at firms, and also to individuals for solo practitioners. I would now like to turn to the Pro Bono Honor Roll for legal organizations. To obtain this special recognition, an organization must certify that they treat pro bono hours the same as billable hours, or their equivalent, and in addition, that in 2024, either their Massachusetts attorneys provided an average of 50 hours of pro bono service per attorney, or 75% of their attorneys provided at least 25 pro bono hours each. This is a very stringent standard, and it requires substantial commitment by the organization's attorneys and management. We salute the following 9 organizations who met these criteria for calendar year 2024. Beveridge and Diamond, Brown Rudnick, Cooley, Deckert, Foley Hoag, Ropes and Gray, Skadden Arps, Wilmer Hale, and Wilson Sansini. Since then, I'm sorry, I missed a page. Finally, to all the participants on the honor roll, the SJC Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services thanks each of you. Thank you for your dedication and commitment, your willingness to volunteer on top of the everyday demands of your work, school, families, and other obligations. Thank you for the tremendous benefits you have provided to your clients, your communities, and the Commonwealth. Your efforts have advanced the cause of equal access to justice, and you have helped so many people who simply could not afford a lawyer to help them. In this moment, please call to mind the clients you helped, the communities you served, the legal issues you conquered or did your best to conquer. Think about what you gave and what you gained: new friends, new skills, professional connections, confidence. Take that into your next case, your next project. And please tell your colleagues about it so that next year's honor roll is even larger than this one. Congratulations to everyone in the room who participated and is celebrating the participants today.
Thank you so much, Roz, and thank you to everyone who is on this year's Pro Bono Honor Roll. I'd now like to turn the lectern over to our committee's liaison to the Supreme Judicial Court, Justice Bessie Dewar. We are incredibly appreciative to Justice Dewar for her work with us. Justice Dewar was appointed to the Supreme Judicial Court by Governor Maura Healey in January 2024. Prior to this appointment, Justice Dewar served as a lawyer in private practice, as a civil rights advocate, and as the Commonwealth's state solicitor. She is extraordinarily thoughtful about how to reduce the justice gap. As a practitioner and as a law student, Justice Dewar engaged in pro bono work herself, and her enthusiasm for the work is unflagging. Justice Dewar, thank you so much for joining us today to present this year's Adams Awards.
Thank you so much, Ilana, and good afternoon to you all. I'm thrilled to be with you today. I now have the great pleasure of presenting this year's John Adams and John Quincy Adams Pro Bono Publico Awards on behalf of the SJC Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services. These awards honor Massachusetts lawyers, law students, law firms, and other legal organizations that have demonstrated a truly extraordinary commitment to providing pro bono services for the benefit of individuals of limited means. Our first Adams Award recipient this afternoon is Omar Hajajra. Mr. Hajajra graduated earlier this year from Suffolk University Law School, where he concentrated in international law and received the school's Public Citizenship Award, as well as its Pro Bono Service Award. He was also named one of just 5 National Law Students of the Year by National Jurist magazine. His professors and mentors describe him as a, quote, once-in-a-generation student who combines great intelligence and leadership with deep compassion and humility. During his law school career, Mr. Hajajra devoted a remarkable 483 hours to pro bono service in the field of international human rights. Many of these hours were dedicated to the Ukraine Accountability Project, an initiative of the Global Accountability Network that investigates and documents violations of international humanitarian law in the context of Russia's war against Ukraine. The founder of the Global Accountability Network, David Crane, writes that Mr. Hajajra, quote, played a pivotal role in conducting complex legal research and drafting key reports that analyze evidence related to war crimes and human rights violations in Ukraine. His extensive research into international law surrounding war crimes has contributed to the formulation of concrete legal arguments and frameworks applicable to real-world situations, particularly in Ukraine. In addition to his research role, Mr. Hajajra also served as executive director of the Ukraine Accountability Project during his last year in law school, fostering collaboration and coordinating and encouraging others' research efforts. Mr. Hajajra also engaged in many other public service activities during his law school career. He interned at the Raoul Wallenberg Institute for Human Rights in Sweden and at the European Court of Human Rights in France. As an intern at the U.S. State Department, he researched atrocity risk assessment frameworks for Chad and Libya. He also worked as a student practitioner under SJC Rule 303 with the Suffolk Human Rights and Indigenous Peoples Clinic. He served as president of the International Law Student Association at Suffolk, and he volunteered with the Lawyers Abroad Committee of the International Law section of the American Bar Association. His nominators describe him as a natural leader who elevates everyone around him, someone who not only contributes ideas, but also listens, encourages, and inspires. As one nominator wrote, Mr. Hajajra offers strategic insights, thoughtful proposals, and forward-thinking approaches that help to engage other students and lawyers in the field of human rights. Mr. Hajajra's dedication to human rights law and helping others is not only professional, but profoundly personal. Born in a refugee camp in the West Bank, he grew up without the citizenship of any country. At age 16, he was awarded the U.S. State Department's Kennedy Lugar Youth Exchange and Study Scholarship, which brought him to the United States. That opportunity opened the door for him to enroll in Colby Sawyer College in New Hampshire, where he earned a degree in history and political studies and eventually became a U.S. citizen. In turn, Mr. Hajajra has used his education and his voice to advocate for those who have been silenced by war, displacement, and oppression. As an advocate for the world's most marginalized, he embodies perseverance, courage, and the relentless pursuit of justice. In recognizing Mr. Hajajra's remarkable achievements, the Pro Bono Standing Committee not only celebrates his past accomplishments, but also honors the profound example he sets for others. If every aspiring lawyer contributed even a fraction of the dedication he has shown to advancing human rights, the world would indeed be a better place. For his unwavering commitment to human dignity, his outstanding leadership, and his extraordinary record of pro bono service, the Supreme Judicial Court Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services proudly presents the Adams Pro Bono Publico Award to Omar Hajajra.
Thank you so much, Justice Dewar. Good afternoon. It's truly an honor to receive the Publico Pro Bono Award, and I want to thank the Supreme Judicial Court for this recognition. I'm especially aware of the legacy behind this award, named after John Adams and John Quincy Adams, whose public service to our country and dedication to justice set a powerful example to all of us. As I stand here today, I'm reminded of the strong tradition of public service in Massachusetts, a place where the law has always been not just a profession, but a calling to serve. This spirit has guided me throughout my work and has taught me that the pursuit of justice requires persistence, humility, and a commitment to causes that can sometimes feel far beyond our immediate reach. Over the past year, my pro bono work has spanned both global and local efforts, from supporting accountability for war crimes in Ukraine, contributing to projects through the ABA's International Law Section, and helping immigrants and nonprofits here in Massachusetts. These experiences have deepened my belief that public service comes in many forms, whether it's helping an asylum seeker fleeing violence or working on global justice issues from afar. The goal is always the same: to uphold human dignity and the rule of law. I'm grateful to my parents who are here today, and to my mentors, Professor Sarah Dillon, who's also here today, David Crane, the former chief prosecutor of the Special Court for Sierra Leone, and retired Colonel Fred Bryant, former senior legal advisor in the US Army on the law of armed conflict, as well as organizations that made this work possible. They have all reminded me that even small efforts can make a big difference. Receiving this award is a reminder that every contribution, no matter how big or small, plays a role in the pursuit of justice. I hope we all continue to find ways to serve, whether in the courtroom, in our communities, or in causes that may go beyond them. Thank you.
Almost forgot to give him the actual award. Sorry about that, Omar. I will do better. Our next Adams Award recipient, Deepti Silapen, is a 2025 graduate of Boston College Law School and currently serves as law clerk for Justice Patrick E. Donovan of the New Hampshire Supreme Court. Over the course of her law school career, Ms. Silapen devoted more than 600 pro bono hours to defending the rights of immigrants, domestic violence survivors, prisoners, and workers, all while serving also as an editor and writer for the Boston College Law Review. Her recommenders praised her not only for her tremendous work ethic, but her skill and compassion for her clients. During the summer of 2024, Ms. Silapen, it was a long time in law school. Ms. Silapen volunteered as an unpaid intern at Greater Boston Legal Services, where she worked on asylum and other humanitarian immigration cases. She interviewed clients about their immigration stories, drafted client affidavits and legal briefs, and assisted with trial preparation, among other duties. Her supervisor commented that she, quote, stood out for her commitment to the work, her initiative and drive, her ability to form a rapport with clients suffering from extensive trauma, and her legal skills in research and writing. This supervisor was also particularly, quote, struck by her commitment to social justice and her sympathy with the hardships the clients were facing. The following fall, Ms. Silapen again volunteered as an unpaid intern, this time at the Massachusetts Law Reform Institute. In this role, she undertook a number of projects to assist immigrants directly and indirectly. She helped draft an amicus brief filed with the United States Court of Appeals for the First Circuit, defending due process rights of survivors of domestic violence in immigration court. She volunteered in a clinic assisting individuals in preparing applications for temporary protected status. She drafted guidance for the Massachusetts Department of Higher Education for determining the eligibility of Cuban and Haitian entrants for financial aid. And she provided direct assistance to a student who had been wrongfully denied aid. Thanks to her work, that student ultimately obtained financial aid that allowed her to continue her studies to obtain a nursing degree. Ms. Silapen again made a lasting impression on the immigration team at MLRI. One colleague stated that, quote, her legal research and writing skills, in combination with her compassion and desire to serve those who otherwise do not have access to legal representation, made her exceptional. Most recently, during her last semester of law school, Ms. Silapen served as a student attorney at Boston College's Civil Rights Clinic. Through the clinic, Ms. Silapen worked on a prisoner's rights class action suit where she interviewed clients, developed the factual presentation, and drafted legal documents, and also successfully argued a motion for class certification. Ms. Silapen's supervisors described her as being a consistently zealous advocate for her incarcerated clients, maintaining regular and prompt communication with them about all aspects of their case. In addition to all of these contributions during her law school years, Ms. Silapen also conducted an empirical study on the working conditions in the nail salon industry in Massachusetts, with the goal of having data to advocate for policies that will best support low-income nail salon workers. Through this work, quote, Ms. Silapen exhibited excellent leadership skills and collaborated well with other students, co-counsel, and community partners, earning the respect and admiration of all who worked with her. In recognition of her extraordinary dedication to pro bono service, to low-income individuals and families seeking immigration relief, to survivors of domestic violence, and to prisoners and workers' rights, the Supreme Judicial Court Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services is pleased to present this Adams Pro Bono Publico Award to Deepti Silapen. Oh, sorry, it's a little awkward to hold that one. Display.
Thank you so much to the SJC's Pro Bono Committee for this award. I was already deeply, deeply honored to be invited here, but am now even more so after getting to read and hear a little bit and continue to hear more from the other awardees. So I started law school after 2 years working as a paralegal at an immigration nonprofit with unaccompanied minors who were facing deportation. I considered myself really shy and was really thrilled to find that I thrived on the intensely social aspect of my job there. I loved sharing stories with clients, hearing about teenage milestones, navigating the maze of school legislation, basically all those day-to-day things. And so to that end, a lot of 1L contracts, torts felt just jarringly abstract and dry. And so to reconnect to the reasons I'd begun law school, I signed up that spring to volunteer at a nonprofit in Cambridge, de novo. And so soon I was Zooming on Fridays with a young asylum applicant and mother who was exactly my age, which was very powerful. And this was really a better antidote than anything I could have imagined. It was useful to apply my new legal writing skills, the things I was learning in class, to draft and then complete her asylum application. And it was also such a refreshing break from a lot of the 1L curriculum to spend time really learning about someone else's life. So in this case, the cultural and political dynamics in Honduras where she'd grown up, the farm, the actual land where she had lived, the many, many community initiatives that she had spent her teenage years and young adulthood working for. And despite everything she juggled every day, the client I worked with was funny, cheerful, and for me, really movingly curious about what law school was like. And so that experience confirmed for me that participating in pro bono work in legal services was going to be the guiding star for me through law school and the thing that fueled my curiosity and my energy for law school itself. And I think it's really empowering, and especially at the very beginning of law school, to have had that experience when this work can really shape a student's career goals and perspective. So working with clients at GVLS in the immigration and civil rights clinics at BC, on immigration projects at MLRI and elsewhere really gave me my most vivid memories from school, from visiting clients with my classmates in solitary confinement, to pouring coffee and having interviews with clients at GVLS. And those experiences were always reminded me that even the most abstract legal rules really shape and have an effect on individual relationships. And legal work really boils down to sitting down with individual people and going through their struggles with them. And so recently, I began working as a term law clerk in the New Hampshire Supreme Court, and I'm learning a lot of how judges and courts exist to serve the public. And I find myself, sort of to my surprise, relying on the skills that my mentors and professors taught me in public interest settings. So not just the legal research and writing, but the ability to look at each case afresh with open-mindedness, curiosity, and an ability to think about how our systems can protect the most vulnerable people in our communities. So to that end, I'm so grateful for my professors at BC Law, for the supervisors for whom I worked, and for all the clients. And thank you again to the SJC for this award. I'm so honored to be here.
Our next Adams Award recipient is Proskauer Rose, a global law firm that has demonstrated a firm-wide commitment to fostering pro bono work. By implementing policies that encourage attorneys to spend time on pro bono cases, Proskauer Rose has established a strong pro bono culture that benefits those who most need legal assistance. To integrate newly hired attorneys into pro bono work, every first-year associate is given a pro bono project upon joining the firm, and all Proskauer lawyers are expected to complete at least 50 hours pro bono annually. Pro bono hours are credited to the same extent as billable hours, and there's no limit on the number of hours an attorney can perform. Proskauer has 4 full-time pro bono staff members who work to coordinate the many pro bono projects to which Proskauer lawyers contribute. Each year, the firm hosts an annual award ceremony to recognize attorneys and staff who go above and beyond to contribute to the firm's pro bono efforts. Among the firm's many pro bono activities, Proskauer's collaboration with the Children's Disability Project at Greater Boston Legal Services stands out. Starting in 2016, pro bono attorneys from Proskauer Rose began representing children with disabilities and their families in appealing denials of disability benefits under the Supplemental Security Income Program we all know as SSI. Proskauer Rose takes on 1 or more additional SSI cases each year. Altogether, Proskauer attorneys have spent approximately 2,000 hours to date working with the clients and their families to prepare affidavits, chase down medical records, draft thorough briefs, prepare the clients for direct examination, and represent the clients at their hearings. Pro bono attorneys from Proskauer Rose partner with Greater Boston Legal Services staff attorneys Taramati Doucette and Majda Abbas. Although the GBLS team is small, leveraging Proskauer's pro bono support enables them to maximize the impact the program has in our community. Attorney Doucette emphasizes that the Proskauer attorneys are, quote, always very on top of things. They are thorough, meet deadlines, seek our advice, and make good use of our supervision. Proskauer's pro bono partner, Bill Silverman, and administrative assistant Penelope Pint have overseen this partnership since its inception. The continuity and administrative support that Proskauer has provided for the past 9 years is key to the sustainability of the partnership. Proskauer is finishing their 12th case with the Children's Disability Project, and every client they have represented has achieved a favorable outcome in securing SSI benefits. These victories have tangible economic impacts for the clients. In one case, Proskauer attorneys were able to obtain $20,000 in retroactive payments, allowing the family to invest in their welfare. In another case, Proskauer attorneys represented a boy and his mother who were seeking SSI benefits due to the boy's multiple diagnoses. To prepare the boy and his mother for their hearing, the team at Proskauer had to consider the many complicated factors in their lives: the impact of long-term domestic violence, the boy's serious physical and mental health conditions, and feelings of shame around seeking benefits. The Proskauer attorneys were able to build a trusting relationship with this family and ultimately obtain SSI benefits for the boy, ensuring that he received the support he needed to thrive in school and beyond. In another case, Proskauer attorneys obtained SSI benefits for a child with a rare bladder condition that requires ongoing medical care. Proskauer attorneys represented the child in obtaining initial SSI benefits and again as a young adult when he was reassessed for benefits. In the client's words, quote, "The Proskauer attorneys made a huge difference for me and my family. Even though I didn't fully understand everything that was happening at the time, I remember feeling safe, supported, and respected. The team treated my family with so much compassion. My mother does not speak much English, and as a child who didn't know much about the process, it was hard to communicate. The Proskauer attorneys made sure my mother got all the support she needed and made sure my voice was heard, even as a young person. They helped us navigate a system that felt overwhelming, and thanks to their hard work, I was able to receive benefits. Those benefits were life-changing. Bladder exstrophy is something I'll live with forever, but because of the help I received from the Children's Disability Project and the dedication of the Proskauer attorneys, I've never had to face it alone." Proskauer Rose attorneys have engaged in pro bono work that provides critical support for children with disabilities, helps to lift Massachusetts families out of poverty, and keeps the client's experience at the heart of what they do. To recognize the firm's commitment to pro bono work and extraordinary dedication to helping children in poverty obtain SSI benefits, the SJC Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services is pleased to award Proskauer Rose an Adams Pro Bono Publico Award. I would like to welcome Proskauer's pro bono partner, Bill Silverman, to receive this award on behalf of the firm.
So thank you very much. First, I want to congratulate my other awardees. I was never a once-in-a-generation student. No one could ever describe me as such, so that was pretty impressive. So on behalf of Proskauer, I'm the only awardee who's actually accepting on behalf of others, and I think in many ways that means a lot to me to be speaking on behalf of my colleagues at Proskauer. I want to thank the Standing Committee, obviously the court, especially want to thank Greater Boston Legal Services for being such a great partner and for giving us such great pro bono opportunities. If we could give them a round of applause. So I literally almost teared up during that introduction because these cases are really so compelling. Of all the pro bono opportunities at the firm, there are none more compelling than this project where we're helping really poor, disabled children. It's hard to raise children under the best of circumstances. Imagine what these families are going through. So why are these cases so important? Why is pro bono so important? Securing these benefits lifts many of our clients out of poverty. It's just that simple. And so you're not just winning a legal case, you're literally watching the transformation of lives. And when you see the impact, when you meet the families, you understand the power we have as attorneys to make a difference through pro bono work. And lawyers make an especially big difference in these cases because the rules are extremely complicated. It's critically important how you frame the disability, how you support it with evidence. And the government grants less than half of these applications. Now, we've taken on about 12 of these matters, and we've prevailed on all of them. We've had families who were unsuccessful who came to us, and we were able to get them benefits. Obviously, we're a great firm, we're great lawyers, but my point here is that lawyers make a huge difference because these rules are too complicated for most people to do effectively. And that's a real shame because that means there are people who are entitled to these benefits who aren't getting them because the rules are so complicated. But these cases are also eye-opening because as much as SSI provides help in bringing a lot of people out of poverty, in my view, the program is completely inadequate. The rules are not only complicated, but they are also outdated. The requirements are extremely stringent. So the asset limits, for example, they were set in 1989, and they have not been increased since I graduated from college. If they were indexed for inflation, they would be 5 times greater today than they were in 1989. Think of all the people who could be getting benefits who aren't simply because the limits weren't indexed for inflation. That is outrageous. There are strict income limits, which makes it very difficult on recipients. So why am I saying all this? Well, how did I learn this? I learned this through the pro bono work. As lawyers, we need to look beyond the individual cases and we need to advocate for changes in the law and public policy that can make a difference. And pro bono work is that opportunity. You know, we talk about innovation, mostly we talk about, you know, a new phone or we talk about AI. We should be talking about innovation, innovative ways to improve access to justice for people who don't have it right now. And that's really the essence of pro bono. Pro bono work is not charity. It's essential to equal access to justice. So to be standing here in this great court, this is a wonderful honor. And on behalf of Proskauer, I am just truly grateful. Thank you.
Our next Adams Award recipient, Madeline Rodriguez, is a litigation partner at Foley Hoag, whose deep dedication to pro bono service has touched the lives of survivors of violence, immigrant children, indigent criminal defendants, and many others who might have otherwise faced the legal system alone. Since joining Foley Hoag in 2013, Attorney Rodriguez has devoted nearly 4,500 hours to pro bono service across a remarkable range of topics and case types. She has represented more than 25 survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and harassment, helping them obtain protection and safety through abuse prevention orders and related proceedings. She has also successfully defended victims' privacy rights in cases before the Supreme Judicial Court. Attorney Rodriguez has also represented more than 40 immigrant clients, many of them unaccompanied minors from Central and South America, helping them secure special immigrant juvenile status and legal permanent residency. She also serves on the legal team representing Venezuelan asylum seekers flown to Martha's Vineyard by Florida officials, asserting federal civil rights claims on their behalf in the case of Alianza Americas v. DeSantis. Attorney Rodriguez's pro bono work has also extended to indigent criminal defense, including advocacy for wrongfully convicted individuals through the New England Innocence Project. She advocated for post-conviction relief for Darrell Jones, a Black man who spent 32 years in prison before being cleared of murder charges. Her commitment to civil rights and racial equity is equally profound. She has led teams that authored important amicus briefs in some of the nation's most consequential education cases, including Fisher versus University of Texas and Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard University, where her brief on behalf of the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund was cited by Justice Sotomayor in her dissent. Most recently, she filed an amicus brief in Shedd v. Simpson challenging Florida's alien land law, which restricts property ownership by Chinese nationals and people from certain other foreign countries. Attorney Rodriguez also advises nonprofit organizations dedicated to advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion. In this work, she helps ensure that these organizations comply with civil rights and anti-discrimination laws while staying true to their missions. She educates nonprofit leaders and staff about the legal parameters governing equity-focused programs, potential challenges, and effective strategies for reviewing and defending DEI initiatives in today's legal landscape. In addition to her individual advocacy, Attorney Rodriguez is a leader in public service. She is active in both the Boston Bar Association and the Women's Bar Association. She is also vice president of the ACLU of Massachusetts and serves on the boards of other nonprofits. In addition, she serves as executive director of the Foley Hoag Foundation, which funds programs addressing racial, ethnic, and gender disparities. And she mentors younger lawyers and is the partner advisor for Foley Hoag's Women of Color Affinity Group, inspiring others to pursue justice with the same conviction that defines her own work. It is not just the volume and range of Attorney Rodriguez's pro bono and public service efforts that are extraordinary. The commitment and care that she shows to her clients and colleagues are equally impressive. One of her recommenders from the Victim Rights Law Center had this to say, quote, "What sets Maddie apart isn't just her willingness to take on difficult cases. It's the compassion she shows her clients, her willingness to go above and beyond, and to step in at the last minute to help out clients. She's there for sexual assault survivors when it matters. She does this work with genuine passion and commitment. She doesn't just show up, she shows up ready to fight, ready to innovate, and ready to do whatever it takes to protect the people who need protection most." For her extraordinary commitment to pro bono service and her courageous advocacy on behalf of society's most vulnerable, the Supreme Judicial Court Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services is proud to present Madeline Rodriguez with the 2025 John Adams and John Quincy Adams Pro Bono Publico Award.
Thank you to the Supreme Judicial Court Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services for this truly wonderful honor. I also want to thank my firm, Foley Hoag, and our pro bono counsel, Rebecca Casaban, for their unwavering support and commitment to this work. Thank you for always saying yes to each new pro bono case request, no matter how challenging, no matter the necessary resources, and no matter the potential public scrutiny. In addition to Rebecca, Foley has given me some truly incredible mentors in pro bono and all things public service. Tony Miranda, Marty Murphy, Dean Richland, Claire Lepore, Jeff Mullen. Thanks to them, I understood from the first days of my career that pro bono isn't just a good thing to do. It isn't even just the right thing to do. Pro bono work is our duty. It is an incredible privilege to belong to a profession that allows us to walk into a courtroom, tell someone's story, and walk out with a piece of paper that changes their life, whether that be an order of protection, a notice that they are now a legal permanent resident, or a declaration that the Constitution grants them the right to equal dignity under the law. As attorneys, we hold the keys to so much. Our best days are when we use those keys to unlock safety, freedom, and possibility for our neighbors. Our best moments come when we choose community over ourselves. To close, I just want to say something about pro bono work during times when we feel powerless and our efforts feel futile. I've had the privilege of drafting many amicus briefs on behalf of our pro bono client, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. When my team and I were writing one of those briefs in support of Harvard and UNC in the most recent affirmative action case, we had many talks about what it meant to work on something when we knew the Supreme Court was most certainly going to rule against us. I remember one of those talks taking place during a particularly emotional team meeting that just happened to be scheduled just minutes after the court issued its decision in the Dobbs case. If you haven't cried in front of your colleagues, I recommend doing it at least once. But we decided that even if we were not writing for victory, we still owed it to our clients to write for history. The road to justice is long, and those who hope to roll back hard-won civil rights will always try to stand in our way. Do the work anyway. The truth is always worth telling, and the rule of law is always worth protecting. Thank you.
Our final honoree this afternoon is Nigel Tampton, a litigation attorney in the Boston office of Skadden. Over the course of his 9-year legal career, Attorney Tampton has devoted over 2,600 hours to pro bono service in addition to his full-time litigation practice. That is an extraordinary achievement in itself. But what is even more important is the sense of purpose, persistence, and dedication behind those hours. In the face of long hours and even longer odds, Attorney Tampton does not give up. In one case, for example, an eviction proceeding in the Boston Housing Court, he devoted 300 pro bono hours to representing a tenant in an eviction case brought by the Boston Housing Authority. The stakes were high. The tenant was a single working mother who was facing homelessness and separation from her 3 young children. Thanks to Attorney Tampton's persistent efforts, the case was successfully settled on behalf of his client. In another case, Attorney Tampton worked with the Volunteer Lawyers Project on behalf of a tenant and her legally blind daughter. Their landlord had repeatedly failed to remedy code violations such as rat infestation, faulty electrical outlets, and broken windows. Again, thanks to his persistence, Attorney Tampton was able to successfully settle the case for his clients. More recently, Attorney Tampton has used the experience and expertise he has already gained from cases like these to mentor more junior lawyers handling pro bono matters in the Lawyer for a Day clinic at the Boston Housing Court. He has also joined the board of Lawyers for Civil Rights, and he has already received numerous accolades for his pro bono work. But as impressive as these accomplishments are, especially so early in his career, Attorney Tampton is particularly worthy of recognition for his extraordinary effort to free a man who was wrongly convicted of first-degree murder and incarcerated for 41 years. In 1985, a Hampton County jury convicted Edward Wright for the murder of Penny Anderson in her Springfield apartment the previous year. Mr. Wright subsequently filed 5 motions for a new trial. Each time, his motion was denied. In 2019, Attorney Tampton and his Skadden team, in partnership with the New England Innocence Project, began the highly improbable effort to win a new trial yet again. This team spent hundreds of pro bono hours on the case, ultimately filing a 119-page brief in the Superior Court. In April of this year, Judge Jeremy Bucci of the Superior Court agreed that Mr. Wright had been wrongly convicted. Judge Bucci found that the prosecution had failed to disclose exculpatory evidence and that a police detective had testified falsely at Mr. Wright's trial. He therefore granted Mr. Wright's 6th motion for a new trial, and a single justice of the Supreme Judicial Court subsequently denied the Commonwealth's petition for appeal. The conviction was vacated, and the Commonwealth chose not to retry the case. Attorney Tampton was instrumental in every aspect of this effort. In nominating Attorney Tampton for this award, co-counsel Radha Natarajan, executive director of the New England Innocence Project, and Stephanie Roberts Hertong, senior staff attorney, noted that his, quote, careful, analytical, and strategic approach informed every key decision in the litigation. He was adept at marshaling the lengthy and complex factual record and procedural history in the case, along with the legal landscape under Massachusetts law. He also displayed the right combination of confidence, humility, and humor to effectively lead a team of junior attorneys and paralegals. He is even-keeled, unflappable, and always thinking through every possible angle. Finally, he is a truly lovely and kind person with a strong moral compass. In supporting Attorney Taunton's nomination, his client, Edward Wright, had this to say, quote, along with New England Innocence Project, Nigel has worked tirelessly on proving my innocence. He has always believed in me and communicated that belief consistently. His energy and dedication have greatly helped me maintain the strength and hope to continue the fight. It is incredibly important that wrongly incarcerated people have allies who see them as people, not as an abstract case. Nigel has always made it clear to me that he sees me. I could never express in words how grateful I am to have him in my corner. On July 31st, 2025, Mr. Wright was released from prison after 41 years, thanks to the efforts of Attorney Hampton, the Skadden team, and the New England Innocence Project. For his persistent and dedicated pro bono efforts on behalf of his clients, often in the face of daunting odds, the SJC Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services is pleased to give the Adams Pro Bono Publico Award to Attorney Nigel Hampton.
Thank you, Justice Stewart, for that generous introduction. And thank you to the committee for this very humbling recognition. Congratulations to the other honorees. It's humbling to be in your company. I was also once described as a once-in-a-generation student, just not in a particularly positive way. I started working on Eddie Wright's wrongful conviction case in 2019. When I started working on the case, Mr. Wright had already been incarcerated for a crime he did not commit longer than I'd been alive. His case became a bigger and bigger part of my life for the next 6 years, and as you heard earlier this year, we finally got the chance to celebrate. In April, Mr. Wright's conviction was overturned, and this summer he was finally released and exonerated. Working on Mr. Wright's case has been by far the highlight of my professional career, and I'm so grateful to be honored for it. And that being said, I am wary of standing up here and risking the misimpression that results like the ones in Mr. Wright's case come about just because people like me happen to make certain choices. In reality, there are so many things that needed to happen. First, the case was driven by my co-counsel at the New England Innocence Project, Radha Natarajan and Stephanie Hartung. Without truly exceptional nonprofit lawyers like them and funding for the work they do, Mr. Wright and many other now exonerated, innocent people in the Commonwealth would still be wrongfully behind bars. Second, Mr. Wright's case required a substantial team. In addition to the New England Innocence Project, many of my current and former colleagues at Skadden devoted hours and hours that were critical to the case. My friends, Nicole Pacheco and Isaac Seidel-Goli, and so many others were instrumental to the result. Third, my firm, Skadden Arps, poured support into this case. Over the course of the matter, firm personnel contributed in billable hour equivalents more than $7 million to the case over thousands of hours of work. And moreover, the firm gave me the flexibility to work on this case in the first place, and as it took shape, the flexibility to take whatever positions we needed to in order to obtain a just result. And those are things I always took for granted, but as a lawyer at a big law firm in 2025, there are things I don't think anyone should take for granted anymore. I think there are things that we should cherish and collectively work to preserve. Fourth, outside of the work, everyone on our team had people in their lives who enabled this work to happen. For me, that was my wife, Elizabeth, who, despite having her own full-time job, would encourage me to stay late, go in on weekends to work on Eddie's case, past ordinary big law firm hours, while she took on an even more disproportionate share of childcare responsibilities. Her contributions in that regard and others were invaluable, but often underappreciated. And fifth, most importantly, we had a client who pushed this case through against unimaginable odds. Despite being locked in a prison cell without reason for more than 4 decades, Mr. Wright preserved and developed a very narrow path to justice that ultimately we were able to walk together. Eddie, I'm so glad you're here, that you made it today, and that we get to spend more time together. You're truly an inspiration to me and to my whole family. Now, these are just some of the things. that were required to exonerate Mr. Wright, and they're truly incredible things, and they're worth celebrating. But what's also apparent to me is how disproportionate those things are to the very meager effort it took to wrongfully incarcerate Mr. Wright in the first place. Like many others, Eddie was deprived of justice due to circumstances and corrupt systems beyond his control. And so although Eddie's case is an exceptional triumph, and I love celebrating it, it's hard not to also look at it as an example of an issue where justice for wrongfully incarcerated people and others is not granted by default, but due to an exception. And standing here today and having already used too much time, I'm not going to purport to offer a solution to that problem, other than I think it's worthwhile to think about more often and more deeply. That's what I intend to do when I leave here, when I think of this award, and to recognize that efforts like the ones that went into Mr. Wright's case, they're appreciated, but unfortunately unusual enough to be noteworthy, and that a better constructed system would make them less unusual and less necessary. Thank you.
I will turn things back to Alana with a final congratulations for all of our honorees today. Good night.
Thank you so much, Justice Stewart. So now I trust everyone in this room understands what I meant when I said this is one of my favorite days of the year. Just listening to you folks talk about your work, it is inspiring. I am so grateful to all of our honorees. And in a few minutes, everyone here can congratulate and thank this year's honorees in person in a reception in the conference suite. But before we move our celebration to the reception room, I'd like to thank the people who made this awards ceremony possible. I'd like to thank those who submitted nomination packets, which helped us to identify and recognize those engaged in extraordinary pro bono service. I'd like to thank all the members of the court staff who prepared for today's ceremony and who helped to put together the pro bono honor roll. Those include SJC Administrative and Program Coordinator Blanca Tosado, Erica Gulli Santiago, Ellen Coyne, and Vanessa Scott in the Public Information Office, and Ali Sharenza in the Court Facilities Management Department. Without their support, it would be impossible for us to recognize the hundreds of attorneys and law students on the pro bono honor roll or to celebrate our honorees at this ceremony. I would also like to thank Jonathan Wardle and the Suffolk University for making it possible for us to webcast today's event. Hello in the back. Along with Dan Parlin, the Service Delivery Manager for the Court Information Technology Services Department. Thank you also to the SJC Chief Court Officer, Joe Carreri, and his team for their assistance with today's program. In addition, I want to express my gratitude for all of the members of the Pro Bono Committee. In particular, I'd like to thank Felicia Ellsworth, Victoria Gottney, and Seth Orkand, whose terms on the committee will be completed this year, for their contributions. And I would like to thank Chip Finney, Justice Dewar, and Chief Justice Budd for their support of the Pro Bono Committee and of Pro Bono Legal Services in the Commonwealth. We could not do our work without you. Now it is my pleasure to invite you all to join us for a reception in the conference suite, which is on this floor at the opposite corner of the building. Congratulations and thank you.